I do have, let's see, I guess I have news. I have good news. I pulled out my iPad, and so I have all the breaking news. If you didn't see it, we've got some, from the Booking Buddies, we've got people killing it out there. I wanted to mention Mark Smith, trainee with 177 contacts. Ryan Luke, a noob, a total newbie with 152. So I know the folks over there in across the pond, the big pond, are excited about that. And Rebecca Aguilos also with 140. That's really good. And then in total bookings, David Neshev, a trainee with 16, eclipsing Chris and Levi, which was it a fluke? I don't know. We'll see. And then, of course, in total booking percentage, Chris Lorenzo at 15%, Levi with 11.4, and Oscar with 9.62, just to be exact, 9.62. And if you're watching our recording, we're going through all the stats briefly here. And then on activity, just I'll highlight a few folks here on the latest activity report I have. Alexandra Pedro with 266 points, which is incredible. And Yana, 214, followed with the bronze medal, Rachel, 211. So that's a whole lot of activity. So I'm going to put this away, and we're going to get to it. Tonight, wherever you are this morning, we are going to be talking about, oh, I should pull up my notes. I actually do have notes. Some of you think, well, Lee just gets up there and speaks extemporaneously. That's not true. I actually have notes. And so as I'm stalling a little bit. And so as I pull these up, let's see. Let me get rid of this. We don't need that. Let me pull this up. We're going to talk today. We have a series going. You can't tell what it is because it doesn't have a theme yet. But these are fairly random. It's a random series on success. We have talked about when the problem isn't the problem. About a month ago, we talked about 3 benefits of making commitments. We talked about failure is just failing to ponder your failures. Think about that. We're going to kind of keep talking about messing up today. We talked about 4 things high performers do that people that are average don't do. And then today, I'm going to talk about I'm successful, and it's true, I'm successful. Believe me, I'm successful because I've been wrong. That's the title. So we're going to embrace our mistakes. I'm successful because I've been wrong. So I talked to a guy at church the other day. He said one reason, we were talking about success for some reason. He said one reason he's been successful is because he's been wrong a lot. And I was like, what? That's not what you hear people say. So we kind of delved into it. And I found one of the best ways to expand your leadership is by being wrong and making mistakes occasionally. And you know what? It's okay to even be wrong publicly. I'll explain. No one likes to be wrong. I go to great lengths to be right and to get it right. But there is some value in getting it wrong. So I want you to think of a time that you were wrong. Maybe write it down. Think of it in your head. It can be a personal thing where you wronged someone, a relationship. It could be something you did that you knew was wrong that you needed to make right. It could be a little thing, a mistake you made in the office. I don't know. Think about that. But here's some things. If you do make mistakes and it's appropriate, here's some things that you can say. I don't know if you need to write all these down, but you could. If you need to practice, but here's some good things to come out of your mouth after you've made a mistake. And this was hard for me as I ran a department in a corporate setting at one point. And I made a list of things I said, which were hard to say. Number 1, I said, whoa, I sure missed that one, which is a little admission that you made a mistake. I sure missed that. Here's another one. Oh, I'm sorry. I really screwed that up. That is hard. The 2 words, I'm sorry, are extremely difficult for men to say. Do you understand that? Women are good at it. Men, we suck. We'd rather do anything than say I'm sorry, especially in a relationship with someone else, our our partner. We don't want to say, I'm sorry. It's like, "Ugh," but it's a good thing to say. Here's another thing I've said. I literally wrote these down. Oh my, I thought I understood that, but now I see I didn't. And that's kind of a roundabout way of saying, I messed that up. Here's another thought. Thanks for pointing out what I missed. I said that through gritted teeth. In fact, you know what? As I was kind of thinking about this topic of just being wrong and the advantages of being wrong, I was grading papers, and some of you know I teach at a couple universities nearby, and I graded one of the guy's finals, and I was just going through it rather quickly and ran across a word that I didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't register, and I just wrote him a note in the margin that said, this is not a word. And so, you know, and then I went on through his paper and corrected some stuff or told him what he did right. And then he wrote me an email back and said, sir, professor, people call me professor, which is really fun because, you know, I should have a pipe and a tweed jacket from LGFG. But anyway, he wrote me a note that said, this word is in fact a word. And he gave me the definition. I was like, oh my gosh, that is a word. And it was, I knew that, but I messed up. I made a mistake. It was agreeance. And he wrote it in kind of a funky way in his sentence, but something about agreeance. I'm like, I don't think that's a word. It was a word. So you know what I wrote back? Instead of just saying, forget it, that class is over, done, delete, I wrote him back and said, I stand corrected. Thank you. And so, and I had sort of prided myself to the class on being, you know, having an English background and stuff. And then I made a mistake like that. So it's really hard, but I wrote it in an email. You can see it. I'll send it to all of you if you want proof, but I stand corrected. That's another thought. Sometimes you make a mistake just saying dumb stuff, which I'm good at. And so another thing I wrote down, I just can't believe I said that. I hope you can forgive me. Ooh, that's hard to say. You need to forgive me on that. Hard, difficult. Okay, so if you have never said any of those statements, I recommend that you think about doing that, just so that your relationships will be repaired from time to time. But let me talk about very quickly 3 advantages of being wrong. Number 1, learning. This is an advantage of being wrong. Anyone who doesn't make mistakes already knows everything. And those who know everything can't learn. You with me? So it's okay to make mistakes. Learning is the repeating process. It goes like this: failing or mistake, reflection, improvement. Failing, reflection, improvement. That is how we learn. So people at LGFG, if we're all leaders, and we are, learning leaders make decisions based on a reasonable confidence that they're doing the right thing, whether you're with a client or when you're with somebody else in the office. That's the first step. You're going to say this, I'm going to make this decision. You evaluate your decisions and you ask yourself, hopefully, did that produce the desired result? You know? And then you can adapt what might be improved based on feedback. What could make that better? And then whatever you made a mistake on, what didn't work, you just reject that. What isn't working? So that's how you can evaluate and learn from mistakes. So that's a great reason. Instead of, you know, I know some of you are really good at beating yourself up when you make a mistake on the phone. Yeah. Has anybody done that? You hang up and you're like, oh, God, I can't believe I'm so, why don't I learn? I'll never get that. You start this self-talk cycle of death. And the fact is, instead of beating yourself up, you can say, okay, made a mistake. What did I learn? Next time I will ... fill in the blank. That's just a good thing to remember all the time. Next time I'll handle that in this way, rather than just sitting around being pissed at yourself or somebody else. All right, that's the number 1 thing, is learning is a great advantage of being wrong. Number 2 is improvement. Improvement. Realize this: every improvement in your life and work begins with imperfection. Every improvement begins with imperfection. Now, I know from coaching some of you and doing some face reading that some of you are perfectionists, right? I won't have you raise your hand, but usually if you're doing that, people have lines right here in between their eyebrows. If you just want to know, if you talk to a client that has 2 lines right here, you know, that's from years of having high standards. If they have 3 lines, like my wife, she's not around. That's perfectionist, somebody that's like really off the chart, gotta do it right, or I'm not gonna do it at all. You know people like that. Some of you are like that. So it's okay. Every improvement begins with imperfection. I should do a talk on perfectionists. That would be interesting. So here's the deal on improvement. You're always wrong when there's a better way to do things, right? You're always wrong when there's a better way to do things. The online order thing that Dimitri set up. Dimitri, is that you sitting in the middle there? Yeah. I mean, the ability to do everything electronically and have it, you know, you don't know how many steps and how much time when that gets all the kinks worked out, that will help you with. But in a sense, the old system was a wrong system because there was a better and more efficient way to do things. And the teams worked hard to make that happen. So there's always a better way. I love Tony Robbins, one of his questions that he asks, or he encourages us to ask, and that's this: what's not perfect yet? What's not perfect yet? That makes your brain boop, 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 go into a whole new area. Like, here's a bunch of things that aren't perfect yet. It gives you things to work on. So anyway, on the topic of improvement, which is number 2, reject the need to be right all the time, okay? Reject the need to be right. And I would just make space for other people by saying, you know what? When you make an assertion, I would say, yeah, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be wrong. That is a way to temper your personality if you're like a bull in a china shop. So here's a couple quotes, and then I want to expand on this just a little bit. There's a guy named Sir Ken Robinson, whom I do not know, said this: if you're not prepared to be wrong, you will never come up with something original. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. So I know that when I'm faced with the need to take action on something, sometimes I'm a little tepid because I don't want to make a mistake, or I'm not quite sure I can execute well. Or sometimes I have the idea of rocking the boat, to use that metaphor, was not appealing. Or I just flat out, I didn't want to be wrong, and that's kind of can paralyze you. So the deal is, embrace the mistakes, run toward mistakes. I'm not, and hear me, I'm not saying just go do stupid stuff all day long, go off script, make up things so you can make mistakes and grow and improve. No, that's called stupid. But when you're trying your best and you make a mistake, it's totally okay. All right? Think about your kids. What a healthy way of thinking for some of you that do have children. What a healthy way to teach ourselves and our kids that mistakes are totally inevitable. They are acceptable. You know, when my kids were little, you know, or Dimitri, he's got little kids, when they were starting to walk, like, and they fell down, they didn't get mad and say, hey, what are you doing, you dumb kid, you fell. No, that's part of learning how to walk, is falling down. Okay, this is how left, right. It's totally acceptable. So there you go. All right, number 3. Let's talk about number 3 advantage of making mistakes is growth. Growth. And I read an author who said that ego or pride stunts your growth and makes you stupid. I kind of like that. So ego stunts your growth and makes you stupid. So what does growth include? Growth includes 4 things. And then I'm going to quote from one of our favorite books that we studied a couple years ago. If you were around, The 360-Degree Leader. We read that as a company. If you haven't got that book, it's a good one. Maybe we'll review it sometime. But growth includes, number 1, the courage to risk failure. 2, the honesty to own your mistakes. When you make a mistake, you're like, hey, made a mistake, drop the ball, didn't work. 3rd, this is what I think is great, humility to learn from blunders. I mean, all of us. Some of you need to be so thankful. If you're, who's doing those gratitude journals? Is anybody writing down things they're grateful for still? Remember we started that exercise? If you're still doing that, humility is so good for all of us. All right? More on that in a few minutes. The 4th thing that growth includes is a resolve to begin again. We don't just fall down and stay down and go, okay, that's it, I quit. We begin again. We get on the next phone call immediately. We resolve to begin again. So here's the thing I wanted to share from this book. This is called The 360-Degree Leader, and that's being a leader no matter where you are in the organization, okay? If you're at the top, you need to learn to lead down. If you're just joined the company, then you're learning how to lead up and influence people from the ground up. If you're in the middle and you've been around for a while, you need to learn how to lead across. So it's how to influence wherever you are in the organization, right? So there's a really cool chapter in here in the leading across, and it's called Don't Pretend You're Perfect. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts from this because some of us are desperately trying to be perfect and it just won't work. Let me read. This is from John Maxwell, by the way, our favorite leadership author. He's talking about how to be real in a competitive environment. Okay? Is LGFG a competitive environment? Yes, massively. Woo! Not an easy place to spend your time. But here's a suggestion from John. One of the worst things he says leaders can do is to expend energy on trying to make others think they're perfect. That's true whether the leader is CEO or functioning in any part of the organization. He says it's a crock. The closest to perfection people ever come is when they write their CV. Yes, when you think about that, that's when you're at your best with your resume or your CV. Since nobody is perfect, not you, not your peers, not your boss, we need to quit pretending. People who are real, who are genuine concerning their weaknesses as well as their strengths, draw others to them. They engender trust. They are approachable, and they're a breath of fresh air in an environment where other people are scrambling to reach the top by looking good, okay? So he says, here's some things you can do to get real, and this involves embracing mistakes, okay, which is our theme for the day. Number 1, he says, admit your failures. He said he was at a CEO conference, I'll summarize, and one of the leaders came up to him, high-powered CEO, and said, you know what, I can't believe you're suggesting we talk about our weaknesses with our people. I think that's a really bad idea. And Maxwell said, well, why is that? And he said, well, a leader should never show weakness or fear. He should always be in control. He should always be in command. Otherwise, his people have less confidence in him. And Maxwell said, well, I think you're laboring under a false assumption. And the guy said, what's that? And Maxwell said, you think your people don't know your weaknesses. Whoa! So we're all aware of them. So why not just go ahead and admit it in a healthy way, in a restrained way, okay? I don't want you guys to hang up from this call and then have a 2-hour discussion on why everybody is mistake-ridden and full of problems. That's not the point. But it is nice to know that we don't have to be perfect, hopefully. All right, the second thing he suggests on how to be real in a competitive environment is he says to ask for advice. Ask for advice. I was bad at this when I was in my 30s and 20s, for sure, because I wanted to be completely self-sufficient. I didn't want to have to rely on anyone. So I didn't ask for help. I didn't sometimes ask questions because I didn't think I knew everything, but I sure didn't want to let my guard down to ask for advice. Stupid, could have done a lot better and faster. Here's the third thing he's got here. He says, worry less about what other people think. Worry less about what other people think. You know, we do spend a lot of energy, especially if you're on social media a lot. Yikes, you're always putting things out there to, like, you know, to make sure that you look good. And I'm not saying I'm posting things today that make me look stupid. But the deal is we'd spend a whole lot of energy trying to shore up our image. And the problem is most people don't care about what you're doing and what you're posting and all that stuff. So save your energy, okay? Not a big deal. Fourth thing, he says, be open to learning from other people. Be open to learning from other people. And he does share a story from Abraham Lincoln. And I'm assuming most people have heard of that person, one of probably our most favorite and important presidents of the U.S. back in the 1860s. And he said, President Lincoln is said to have handled a person who had a know-it-all attitude. And so Lincoln asked this man, how many legs will a sheep have if you call the tail a leg? And the guy said, oh, well, 5. And Lincoln said, no, he will still have 4, because calling a tail a leg doesn't make it 1. So, yes. So be open to learning. Don't, develop an I know everything attitude. And that's what's so good about LGFG is it continues to beat you down. And that's good for you. So I'll wrap up with that. This is just a good book. It's that little section on leading across is nice. He's even got more stuff, which I won't share because of time, but he says, instead of impressing others, let them impress you. So the Bible even talks about that we should always think of others as more important than ourselves. Again, in a healthy way. And that will draw people to you. They'll be attracted to you. All right? So we've talked about some good stuff, and I want to wrap up with what just happened yesterday. If you follow the world of sports, does anybody know? Does anybody follow golf? I know I made a golf reference a week or so ago. No one knows golf. Okay, look it up. Go to Wikipedia and study it. But we have a new Masters champion in the world of Major League Golf, and that is Tiger Woods. And if you've ever heard of Tiger Woods, he had a tremendous finish and won the Masters, the green jacket. And he had come so close in so many major events and tournaments that he finally broke through and won the Masters again. Now here's the deal. This is what makes it special. He's been in an 11-year drought. And he, years ago, had a massive fall from grace, huge mistakes in his personal life, went through a tough divorce, completely fell off the chart in terms of golf. I mean, we're not just talking about making mistakes, but his life absolutely fell to pieces. And so he has struggled to fight back and stage this comeback. And yesterday he beat all these other star-studded leaderboard to post a 2 under 70 final round, and he won the Masters. And if you go back, I'd encourage you to go online on YouTube, because they posted the last hole on there, and it's just an amazing. I mean, I don't even care about golf, but it was fun to see someone who had made a mistake or a series of mistakes to stage a comeback like he did. Just the mental aspect of golf, it's so challenging. And anyway, it was quite inspiring. He said that winning is not always the barometer of getting better. And I thought that was an interesting comment that he made, because when he was younger, in his 20s, he won everything. I mean, he won more titles than almost anybody except Sam Snead, and was just an incredible golfer. So he was destined for, he just did not lose. And then his life completely fell apart. So it was very cool yesterday to watch him take things that would be what we would call doing something wrong or being in the wrong, and then fighting back. And because most people wouldn't have any of that. They would just say, I've made enough money, see you. Anyway, so study that if you can. That's a great video to watch. All right, any thoughts from the gallery? I'm taking my glasses off. Any thoughts on making mistakes? This is probably not a good topic for people to jump in and say, oh, can I share with the whole company where I screwed up? No, probably not. Okay. Good. Well, I appreciate you guys being online today. I wish you a happy little Lenten season leading up to Easter this next weekend. And I don't think that anybody's going to be in the office Monday. Is that correct? Or are we all working on Monday? But here it's a big holiday. Okay, I have to make a decision whether, nope, not online. Okay. If you're not, then we will suspend this leadership call for another time. Yeah? Because of Easter. The people in Hong Kong were like, we're not going to be here. So I'm like, okay. So, all right. So decision rendered. Everybody cool? Can you survive? Of course you can. I wanted to let you know that I will be, as we conclude, I will be starting a season of increased travel. So there will be times when I might not be able to pull off this call, so because I'll be on the road in various places. So be ready for that. All right. So happy Easter to everyone. Enjoy the season, and we'll talk to you again next week. And go make 1 or 2 mistakes this week. It's okay. See ya. Bye. Everybody's waving.